Hello. All right, I wanted to make a quick video today as a follow-up to yesterday's Kuwait video because there were a couple of really good comments and questions about, how to apply this stuff. And the short answer is there's no easy explanation for how to apply this stuff, okay? Kuwait gives very good explanations for how to apply this deep psychological information. But as I've said before, his actual method, his actual auto-suggestion method, you're going to find that for some people it works very well right away. But for most of us, you have to really experiment with auto-suggestion and make it your own kind of in order to get it to work more in line with what you want when it comes to some of the big changes you want in your life, including just feeling better. Simply repeating the mantra, the affirmation every day in every way, I'm getting better and better before bed and when you get up in the morning is great. But what I'm getting at is you're going to probably find you're going to want to do more than just that. So there were a couple comments, like I said, that were really good. One of them pertained to both of them really pertain to you have to use your willpower, right? And Kuwait's not saying that you don't have to use your willpower at all. Okay? He's just saying that when you utilize your willpower, you have to understand that the imagination supersedes it or dominates it very, very easily. So you want your willpower to be in accord with your imagination. Here's something from Simple Self-Healing. He says, I cannot too strongly insist that in the practice of autosuggestion, the exercise of willpower must be strictly avoided, except in the initial phase of directing or guiding the imagination on the desired lines. This is absolutely the only manifestation of will necessary or even desirable. Any other voluntary effort is positively harmful in connection with autosuggestion and will almost certainly have an effect contrary to the one desired. It's a very interesting paragraph. Again, you don't have to necessarily agree with everything Kuwait is saying here. With all these teachings, take what you want and discard the rest. He is saying that your willpower should be used to direct yourself to what you want, to what you think you want. You want to use your willpower to initially direct or guide the imagination. And, if you want to say, I want to be healthier, you have to use your willpower to be like, all right, I'm focusing on, I want to be healthier right now. I want to be healthier. But once you've done that initial focus, Kuwait says, give it up, become passive essentially, and just auto-suggest to yourself. This is certainly debatable whether this is the most effective way of doing this or not. Kuwait had tremendous success, but at the same time, I've noticed in my own life and working with people, and so many other law of attraction teachers will tell you that there's many different ways of doing this. All we have to refer to is the last podcast episode where I was talking about Jocko Willink and kind of actively asserting what you want. And it seems like he's utilizing a lot of willpower to do that. Or Lester Levinson, I said in that episode, he talks about using willpower to do that. So these phrases, imagination and willpower, it gets murky really quickly. And I would suggest listening to that last podcast episode, that Jocko Willink episode, and also to watch and listen to these Kuwait videos I've done over the last couple weeks again. You're going to become more okay with figuring out what works for you and what doesn't, and not taking these terms so literally. Will, imagination, they're just terms. They're just terms. But the willpower your willpower still has to be utilized. What Kuwait is always saying is that your imagination supersedes it. And one could argue that, Kuwait was basically, like Neville, recommended being too passive to get your suggestion into your mind. And that you should be using more willpower to get it into your mind. Somebody like Sammy Ingram, who I know a lot of people don't like, but she's a YouTuber, Neville-inspired YouTuber. She does a really good job talking about just affirming something over and over and over again, kind of forcefully, to get it into your subconscious, into your imagination. Now, one could argue when you do that kind of repetitive affirmation over and over and over again throughout the day, after a while, your mind gets tired. And when your mind gets tired is actually when that constant affirmation you're making starts to implant itself. What Coué is saying is that when the mind is passive is when ideas implant themselves best. And I think that is true, even if we're seemingly using more willpower and what have you, more force. Really, even though we're doing all this stuff, the ideas that we are buying into and believing, we buy into and believe imaginatively and almost passively, automatically. Someone else asked or had a comment, like how does like the letting go process or like releasing difficult feelings relate to all of this? And the answer is that it relates to it however you want it to relate to it. Without question, when you are suggesting something to yourself and it seems not natural, all these feelings are going to come up to challenge its naturalness. And yeah, it's a great approach to just kind of feel into those feelings while you're asserting stuff, or while you are suggesting stuff to yourself, and to realize that these feelings you're having that are making you uncomfortable are probably because you're suggesting something new to yourself, and to be okay with the feelings being there momentarily and to let them pass through, which is what letting go is all about. We've talked about that a lot. You can check out some of my videos or podcast episodes about David Hawkins and Claire Weeks and doing that. And so, yeah, I wanted to just conclude this video. I hope this seems, well, I'm talking very quickly today. I just want to conclude this video by reading something else from Simple Self-Healing. Coué actually often called the law of reversed effort, law of converted effort. His friend Charles Baudouin called it converted effort as well as reversed effort. It might be because of the French translation, but converted effort is a good phrase to use, as well as reversed effort. In Simple Self-Healing, I edited this stuff together. Coué says, people are always preaching the doctrine of effort, but this idea must be, that this is not the correct idea. Effort, too much effort means will. And then, the imagination goes in opposition of what you want. And Coué goes on to say in this passage here, the very fact of exerting effort has converted the will into a force acting in a sense contrary to the original suggestion, with the result that we don't get what we want. The imagination should be left unhindered. Let it do its work alone, unhindered. This is what we were just referencing about being passive. Coué says, be quite passive. Through mysterious, still unexplained processes, our subconscious self accomplishes marvelous things. Think of the most common movements of the human body and ask yourself how they're operated. What has set in motion the complicated mechanism when you stretch your arm to reach a glass on a table, or when you take a coin from your pocket? No one knows. But even if we cannot explain the phenomenon, we do know that, in actual fact, it's an order resulting from a mere suggestion, which is transmitted through the nervous system and translated into action at a speed infinitely greater than that of lightning. Scientists might argue with that. It's a little bit poetic there by Coué, especially from Coué's very mundane, normal standards. But the point is that Coué is saying that when you suggest, we're always suggesting stuff to ourselves. And when you suggest something to yourself, it's what you suggest to yourself automatically that you believe, that you buy into and constantly buy into. And then, it's like this self-propelling mechanism. The more you buy into it, the more you think it, the more you believe it, the truer and truer it becomes. And that happens just very, very quickly, quietly. That's why we call it unconscious almost, because it's like your imagination is working so quickly. And if you watch it, you become more aware of what you're thinking, what you're imagining, and you become more aware of what you're accepting. If you feel bad, it is because you are thinking negative thoughts and accepting negative suggestions and believing they are true, buying into them. If you feel good, you are thinking positive thoughts and buying into positive thoughts in the current moment. And so you do want to use willpower to direct your thinking so it's more positive. And you do want to become comfortable letting go of negative feelings as they pass through you. But one reason I love Kuwait so much is that he's really getting to the base of all this, which is this very seemingly, almost like this primal element of like the human condition, which is that we think something, we suggest something to ourselves, and if we accept the suggestion, it has a tendency to, come into our life. We act upon it and it comes into our life. And this is happening continually. This has been a video where I speak very, very quickly. It's Saturday morning here. I've got a lot on my plate today. But I wanted to bang this one out for y'all. Because this stuff gets complicated even though it's simple, it gets complicated when we try to apply it. And I want you to feel comfortable applying it and experimenting with it, even if it seems complicated sometimes. Because if you just stay with it, you'll realize that even though it seems complicated, it makes more and more sense the more you try to apply it. And we get better at applying it and suggesting productive things to ourselves. And at the end of the day, as always, don't think too much. Just relax. Right here is right now. All is good if we sink into that. All right. Have a good one.